Still we have around 3 months to do that. So first thing first, let me introduce myself. Well, who am I? Well, if you are in Think Academy, probably you have heard about me. My name is Yixian, and I teach AMC 8, AMC 10, and MCTB course. So some of our students are in my MCTB. They ask me, why are you going to give a talk about AMC 10? Because I'm going to help you excel in AMC 10, help you get some high score. Because after all, AMC 10 may not be our final goal. We want to do something more, isn't it? Alright, so let's keep going. Well, as far as we know, AMC 8 is for grade 8 and below. And AMC 10 stands for 10 and below. AMC stands for American Mathematics Contest, of course. So first, I want to give you this distinction. Well, what are the different points do we have? Of course, there are some similar properties. About the time, AMC 8, we have 40 minutes. And for AMC 10, we have 75 minutes. Wow, the length in time is totally different. Almost double. Well, if you want to be precise, it's just like maybe 70% or 80% above. But still, it's longer. Well, then you may ask, are they sharing the same number of questions? Well, later I will mention actually they are the same. So this table is mainly about the difference. And talking about penalty, well, don't take it too serious. What does it mean? Penalty here, I mean, like if you make wrong guesses, if you get some wrong answers, you'll have some grades not expected as you are. So AMC 10 issues you some points if you leave the question unanswered. However, on the other hand, if you make a wrong answer, that point, that score will be deducted. That's why we say there is a penalty. However, for AMC 8, just like Amy, there's no penalty. So you get one correct, you get 1 point. So how many points imply how many questions did you make it correct? How does it sound? Well, that means without any trial, a random guess was encouraged in AMC 8. However, in AMC 10, it was discouraged. So only if you can make some cancellation, or say if you can cross out something, well, later we'll make a calculation. I'll just hold it for now. How many questions if you can cross out? How many selections? How many choices can you cross out? So that if you want to make a guess, yes, that might be good. And also, we will discuss that in class. So we will have a short-term class coming in December. And also about the topics. Well, AMC, also, yes, there are some topics from middle school. So if you count, we have like radicals, square roots, and also we have some part of exponents, we have Pythagorean theorem, we have circle, and some part of calculation. Although we do provide that in our elementary school class, but in your school, potentially, those might be discussed in middle school. However, for AMC 10, AMC 12, they are almost the same to some point. A lot of those are coming from high school. So think of this, if you want to take that prior to your high school, or maybe you're not in grade 9, grade 10, but you want to prepare for that, then it asks you to learn something by yourself. Isn't that interesting? We're going to learn something new. But that means you do need to prepare for that. Allow some time. Besides, I still have like 1 or 2 lines below. What does that mean? Well, it means like most of the new material were from class. So when we were in elementary school or middle school, you will learn that. However, for middle school, for high school, not only from class, you will see some questions, you will encounter some questions first, and then bring those to your class. So you have something after class, or something when you do your mock test, and then bring that to your teacher, bring that to your friends, talk to them, and ask for some help, ask for some indication. That's typically what we do when we get higher and higher level of study. So I put the last line. It is more about self-driven. It's more about self-motivated. So please tell me if you're ready for taking this preparation. If you're ready to take this test. All right. Well, that's the first part. What about the other side? Like, now we're heading to AMC 10. We're heading to AMC 12, maybe. What's beyond that? Or say, what is my final goal? Or at least, what am I doing? Well, here is a little path. Well, this is what I did. So, I put AMC 8 aside because it is not on this path. So AMC 8 is different from AMC 10 and 12, and it is sort of outside this path. So they're parallel to each other. Beyond this AMC 10 or 12, so typically these two are interchangeable. You can take either, but most students, if they're not ready for those higher level material, for example, complex numbers or maybe derivatives or some pre-calc, usually AMC 10 is the most taken test. Afterwards, if we get enough credits, if we get really high scores, we'll move to AME. So AME is the next level. And afterwards, so when we move from AME to the next level, actually there's a cutoff. So typically it is a weighted sum, a weighted score. That what you took from AMC 10 or 12 together with another weighted sum, weighted grade from AME. Together we measure whether or not you're good enough, whether the score is high enough. And then you will get into USA JAML or USA AML. So we know there are A and B2 tests. So if you take like 10A and 12B, and both you get into AME, you get very high score in both. Then that indicates probably you will take USA AML, but that's another story. Once you get very good there, you will get into MOP, or previously it was called MOSP. That S stands for summer. So Math Olympiad Summer Program, and now it's a Math Olympiad Program. It will be held for around a year. So once you get into that, you can take the next year IMO typically. So there will be another a long story like team selection, some tests, some training, a lot new stuff in mathematics. So I still want to say here for a little more long time. So what I say is that you may wonder what is the difference like after AMC 10 and 12. Are they still the same? Like we have all this 1 out of 5 multiple choice. Maybe it's kind of longer, harder. My answer is no. So we only have multiple choices for AMC 8, 10, and 12. So the only first level we have that. And for AME, we have short answers. And below that, from USAML, USJML to IAML, all of these parts are more or less proof-based. So really long questions. You will have like 30 minutes to 1 hour on average for each one. Or maybe 1.5. Let me see. Yeah, it's about 1.5 for each question. So it will be turning from time-intensive to quite time-flexible questions. However, that means you need to find the way. You need to find the direction to solve that question instead of reading the sentence and quickly reflect, what should I do? That's the main difference. Alright, so talking this much, what are the basic infos? You have mentioned those a lot. Could you help me collect all of these? Make it clear. Yes, I can do that for you, and here you can see it. The time, as I mentioned before, it is 75 minutes. Yes. 75 minutes isn't quite long, but it's not that short as half an hour or maybe 40 minutes to make a guess or think of this. However, still we have 25 multiple choice questions, 1 out of 5. So you will have A, B, C, D, those 5 selections, and then figure out the only one correct. Alright, so those are the first 3 lines. And what about the grading? I put it in red. There's a penalty. So let me explain it for a while. 6 means how many points you will get for a correct answer. Of course, our goal is to make as many as we can. And 1.5 stands for the plain point, the plain grade that we will get if you have that unanswered. 0 means if you make it wrong, if you make it incorrect, that's what you get. So comparing to the 1.5, if you are very uncomfortable or very inconfident about your answer, maybe give it up is even a better idea. However, we will determine that upon our material, upon our ability, upon our familiarization to the material, to the question. So we'll discuss that in our class to see whether or not we should balance this, whether or not we should take this decision. All right, how do we determine which question should we leave? That refers to some time allocation or test strategy. Don't worry, we'll talk about that. And now, since we talk about AMC 10 and the next level AME, so there's this jump, we would like to know what is the entrance. Well, officially, MA8, the organizer, they told us that it is 120 or 2.5%. 120 means if you can get 120 points or above, or you are in the top 2.5% around the test takers. Whichever is broader, whichever the grade line is kind of lower, then they will take that one. So they want to take as enough students as they can to get into AME, to invite them take this test. And for recent years, it's about 105 and 110. Later, we'll see the trend for recent 10 or so years, the recent decade. Well, the top 1%, do you know what is the name for that? Well, if you have taken AMCA, probably you know the name. It is called Distinguished Honor Roll, yes. And for top 5%, it is called Honor Roll, yes. So top 2.5% is in between. However, previously, there's no distinction between Honor Roll and this cutoff line. But that's also another story. It's about the past. And what are our goals? So no matter you self-study or if you feel some of the material wasn't covered in your school, we can offer some help. What we set these 2 levels, these 2 goals as our ultimate. For example, the first one, if we want to get into AME, if we want to secure a position, if we want to secure an entrance, for recent years, if you can get 110, potentially it is enough. 2020 is not very easy. We see the scores. We see the qualification line. The cutoff line is kind of below 110. What about high score? Well, as I mentioned, if we want to get into some higher levels, for example, USA JMO or USA MO, then we will need around 130. Although, yes, we can enter AME with a 110. However, if we leave all the rest pressure, if we want the other parts, weighted part from AME, that will make us quite intensive. So if we can release some of the pressure and get some high scores out from AMC 10, that will save us some energy or make us more comfortable here in AME. So the second level will have 130. How does that sound? Well, this one, you see a large table. Well, take a guess. What is it? This one is 2019 10B, AMC 10B. So after each year, after each test, maybe several months after, MA will post the analysis for, say, the data collection for that year, for that test. Well, this is what I captured. So let's see what is going on here. From question 1 to 25, they stand for those questions. So another verification, we have those 25 questions. And not only that, we have like Common Core, which part were covered. However, we notice a lot of things were mentioned as none. What does that mean? That means this is not covered in your school. This is not covered in your textbook. Well, if you want to study that, if you're a really good learner, you can try it on your own. If you feel some might be missing, don't worry, we will collect those for you. So we have this course, and we'll discuss that. For example, for combinatorics, for number theory, some application in between where say how to squeeze those into my tactics, then we can do that together, of course. And then for those with light gray with that asterisk, they refer to the right answer, and those stand for the percentages. Ignore the last column. That doesn't make any sense. And for these, we will see like from number 1 to 10, potentially the correctness, the accuracy is about like starting from 74.36, so really high, almost 3/4, to number 10 is only about 27%. Well, you see that number 9 is just 13%, so it's quite tough, it's quite challenging. And afterwards, we'll notice, well, almost none of the questions are getting above 20%. Of course, there are 2, just 21, not 22 even. So really low, about 1/5 or below. So if you make random guesses, you will get even better idea. You will get even better result than that. See? And afterwards, like if we check number 18, if you follow. Number 18, we have 7.53. That means out from here, it's even challenging. Very few students can make it correct. But don't worry, we can prepare for that along our study. So maybe we can get into that 10% or maybe 5% if we do some appropriate study. And what about that column for amines? So that's the second to the right. All that means how many students were. So what is the percentage of students? What percentage of the test takers that give up answering this question? Or say, what portion of the test takers leave that question unanswered? Think of this. We have this test strategy. Like if you're very uncomfortable about answering this, you'll leave it alone. You will get 1.5 for each such question. However, if you make a wrong answer, you'll get 0. So a lot of students give those up. Then, for example, let's see. For the last 5 problems, say 21 to 25, we will see at least 3/4 of students. Well, for 22, 60%, so only 40% of students, 2/5, give it a try. So a lot of students give those up. So up to what point should we take this step? Or for what kind of questions should we still take a guess? Oh, that's another question. So let's hold it for now and see if we can find the answer along the analysis. We have been talking so much. So now let's briefly introduce what are the test strategies and time allocation. So I put that in blue. We have correct, unanswered, and incorrect 3 columns, or say 3 categories. Well, if you can take a piece of paper and follow me, we can think of this analysis. We can think of these calculations. So since there are 25 questions in the beginning, right? And now let's say roughly I can do only half of that. And let's round it down. 25 divided by 2, we have 12.5. So let's say we can do 12 questions correct. And now, I just want to give up all the rest 13. So unanswered 13. That means there's 0 incorrect. To say I can only guarantee, I can secure 12 correct. And for all those, I don't feel safe. I'll leave them alone. That means we have 72, right? 12 times 6, 72 points out from the correctness. And we have 19.5. Remember to multiply 1.5 from there. We have 19.5 points So together we have 91.5. See, at this moment, a lot of students say if we just first take it, maybe we couldn't get 12 correct, but still we can get into this range. The reason is quite simple. You only need to leave a lot of questions unanswered, so you still get some compensation out from there. And what about I can get some more correct, and now I feel a lot more comfortable. Say now I can get 15 correct, or say I plan to get 15. And roughly speaking, 15 questions imply 90 points. But not only that, for the rest 10, maybe I want to still try like 16 to 20. So say we tried the first 20 questions, and the rest 5, 21 to 25, we know they are super hard. Bye-bye. And then we will have like 90 points first, and then we have 5 times 1.5 out from the last 5 questions. So we have 97.5 points. Well, the next step, as we remembered, we have like a big jump usually from year to year, but more or less 17, 18 is the cutoff. Like now the accuracy drops dramatically. Say I can only get 17 of such questions, 17 previous questions, jolly good. I can get the points. And then there are 8 questions, so let's assume evenly like we take 4 of those and then we leave 4 of those unanswered. Then we'll have 102. So 17 times 6, we have 102 points. And then for the rest 4 questions, we'll obtain 6 points. So together we have 108. You will see that 108 is almost in the range for recent years that we can get into AMC. It is a qualification. It is the cutoff line, isn't it? And what about the ultimate level? Well, our goal, our final goal, our platinum goal is to have those 20 questions answered and correct. So say for the first 20, I just want to get them. However, now, due to some reason, for example, time is not enough or something, maybe we can leave the rest 5. Or maybe I just know I couldn't get them correct. It is wise for me to make the decision. Then we'll have like 127.5, 127.5. That's really high. That's pretty close to our 130 goal. Well, what's the difference? What is the difference? For time allocation, in fact, if our plan, our schedule prior to the test are at this kind of 4 levels, then actually the time allocation are significantly different. Well, let's see what happens on the right-hand side. So if we have like 12 questions, if we want to only do half of the problem set, then the average is about 6 minutes, perhaps a little bit more. 75 dividing by 12, we have 6-ish. So far, we have plenty of time to work on every single question. So all we need is only to be careful, to be super careful. We have time, so if we can do it, just try to make it correct. Otherwise, it's kind of a pity. And then what we need are actually fundamental calculations. So basically for those maybe first 12 questions, if you have middle school knowledge, that is enough to give it a try. And the next level, 15 questions, if we divide it by to 75, that's evenly split to 5 minutes per question. Of course, we couldn't have 5 minutes from the first one until 5 minutes to the last one. That's unfair because number 15 usually are quite tougher than the problem 1. Now, for these first 15 questions, typically I have to say it's mainly about definitions. And yes, for the previous 12, still we want to talk about definitions. But for 5 minutes and even shorter, to the next 2 levels, we want to talk about definitions because it is the application. So it is how we apply, how we bring up those ideas out from textbooks, out from our school to the real question we're encountering. We want to go deeper. We want to find the final answer. It is not just like one line or two. It is not just 1 minute or two, that kind of analysis to obtain the answer, probably. So at this point, we might be frustrated. Sometimes when you read the solution, you see, hey, I know that, I understand, but I just couldn't do it. So maybe you need a teacher to help you think why there's a gap between what I know and how do I apply. In the next level, well, 17 or 18, so you can do the calculation. If we have like 18 correct, then what happens? But think of the time allocation. If we have 18 questions correct, or say if we only plan to do 18, then we will have 4 minutes on each question. Almost 2/3 of that 12 case. And here is the bottleneck, as we mentioned a lot. So it will be the cutoff line. And more or less, if you have a good strategy, if you can determine what kind of questions would you answer, what kind of questions wouldn't you answer, then maybe this is a potential line that we can get in above the cutoff line for AME. And then the last goal, or say the final goal for our math study, not only for AMC 10, 12, but also for AME, or maybe for college level, for graduate school level, is that we want to be adept. However, due to this time-intensive structure, this time-intensive property attribute, to this, we want to be super fast and accurate and adapt to each one. All right, so this is our trend, as I mentioned. Well, prior to that, usually we think of the honor roll and AME cutoff to be the same. So we will see that for these part, for the third column, AME, so that's the A test for AME. We'll see only for 2014 we have the 120. However, for 2017, well, some of these years we have that above 110, but some of the years we have that below 110. So as I mentioned, if you can get like 17 to 18 and strategically give up some of the rest questions, you will have the cutoff line, you will have the qualification. However, B, since very few students take that, so the cutoff line is relatively high. Well, this table is not accurate because some years it's not perfectly 120 or perfectly 2.5%. So the organizer will have slight arrangement, but more or less around these lines. Well, then what about the distribution? In middle school, typically we don't have the word for so many modules. In general, we have those 4 parts to think of. We have algebra, we have geometry, we have number theory, and also we have combinatorics. Well, that's the rough cutoff. In fact, if you want to do some geometric calculation, is it algebra or geometry? Well, if you use equations or some other things like progressions, then how to account. So this is just a rough analysis, more or less. And sometimes when we're trying to do some counting, maybe it's like how many numbers are divisible or not divisible. So the structure is number theory, but eventually we ask for like the counting or probability. Potentially we count from one side, or maybe we count both. So this is only the rough structure, but we know it's somehow evenly distributed, but more or less we need some algebra tool. So we see that it's almost 1/3, but don't worry, still it's almost evenly split, those 4 parts, 4 topics. And what about 2020? What about 2020? 2020 is kind of different, so we don't expect geometry to be that much. So as I put as a mark, for 10A especially, geometry is so few. You will, if you take that as a mock test, you will remember that hardly we can see a geometry question, 3 or 4. And for algebra and number theory, well, algebra, it could be easy, it could be hard, it could be super hard in research, so not quite meaningful to talk about that. But for number theory, typically it's not very hard when we do that individually. However, if we combine that with some algebra trick, that might be challenging. For example, I remember in 10a, 2020 10a, that floor function, the sum, 998, 999, 1000. Actually, we need a little trick in terms of algebra to see what is the structure of those fractions, and then we think of that in terms of number theory. Something like that we'll cover in my MCTP course as well. Students feel like it's quite helpful when we see some other perspectives. And what about combinatorics? For recent years, combinatorics are getting more and more. That's unexpected, I have to say, because combinatorics and number theory are really rarely covered in middle school or high school textbooks. So back to that table, we have so many non-parts. Common Core doesn't cover that. And then we have this counting and probability. Of course, we have strategy as well as operation. And then what I put as a highlight is that we have some sort of college level perspectives. And for 10A and 10B, each of the tests contains exactly one such question. So I wouldn't expand on this because that's quite time consuming. But if you remember, there's one in terms of this rotation. I believe that's 10B. The square rotation. And for 10A, that's 21, 22, that kind of operation. So this kind of counting, or say this kind of analysis, if you have a little college perspective, perhaps it will help you just tackle it in 1 minute or two. Trust me, it is. It is true. So for this one is geometry. I just want to briefly argue that usually, even though it is 21, it's not that hard. So let me briefly mention, we have AH equal to AE, so we have these two line segments the same. And then we have these perpendicularities, these two parts. So we have originally a square. And for these four parts, each part we have area 1. So it asks for Fi squared, so this segment. So talking about square, typically we may think of area. And for the length, also, it might not be that easy, right? So for this kind of perpendicularities, maybe the tool that we can find it is Pythagorean theorem. Again, we want to look for the areas for some combinations of the areas. For example, we know the total area is about 4, so we have 4 such pieces. That means we have, say, the side length is exactly 2, say AD or AV. And also the other two, of course. And then for this part of this triangle AEH to be 1, then we can infer. So double it, we will have a small square, so the square with side length root of 2. That also we can infer. Then its complement, DH, is 2 minus root of 2. So this is something subsequent conclusions. Also we have here root of 2, and this part is 2 minus root of 2. Something like that. If we want to look for Fi squared, originally the area comes from a square. And here we have some hint. For example, triangle AEH, that's an isosceles right triangle. So if we know something like that, that's also fine. And since we have those things, we have these two angles. We know these are supposed to be 45 degrees. So we have this to be 135. So then we can calculate all these interior angles with a quadrilateral. So we know that top angle is also 45. And given I, so we have I as the foot. And then if we can find another 45 degree angle, we will have this triangle, say here. What about we call it K? If we know the large triangle, then it is done. And we're given this top part. So if we know this small triangle, if we can obtain the area of triangle EBK, that is fine. And since we have 45 degrees, since we are given this perpendicularity, then we know it is exactly 1/2 of 2 minus root of 2 quantity squared. And then Fi squared, if I divide it by 2, I know it's exactly 1 plus this part. So if I recover that directly, that will be 2 plus 2 times this whole thing. So it will be 2 minus root of 2 quantity squared. And if we expand it, that will be 2 plus 4. This is 4, and plus 2, and then minus 2 times the cross product, which is 4 root of 2. Collect those, we have 2, 2, 4, 8. That's 8 minus 4 root of 2. Or we can do that in this short time for a 21. See, this is number 21. So sometimes if we can see the structure, this kind of model, or say when we have square, when we have isosceles right triangle or 45, 90 degrees, then maybe we can play with each other, all this kind of sources. Then we will have a very obvious hint, very significant hint to that. And also, for example, this one was taught, as far as I know, to a lot of students. I wouldn't go deep into this question, as expanding that will be still a lot to talk. However, for this one, it is actually a combination of combinatorics and number theory. So we will cover that in our class a lot. Say, first, when we talk about 100 digits, so it is a power. That means we multiply the number so many times, then actually we don't need to worry about the 1,000 digit. That doesn't affect the 100 digit, of course. And afterwards, what about the second line, in fact? So asking for 100 digits, and since every time we multiply there might be a carry, there might be so many tens getting to 100, then potentially we can get to know the tens digit or unit digit, although we don't really care, but it doesn't hurt if we know it. So this is something modulo 1000. If we know the remainder modulo 1000, then yes, we can get the 100th digit. We can extract, we can pull out that 100th digit. And to do that, 1000 is a good number. It is a perfect cube. It's 10 cubed. So 10 is something we can handle. This is decimal system, isn't it? So 10 plus 1, and we know binomial theorem. So we have to know binomial theorem first, and we obtain that 1000 is the cube of 10. And then we will have this idea that we can expand it in terms of 10 plus 1. Why? The third line actually tells us if we take the binomial theorem, then all those previous terms in a higher power of 10, of course it is a multiple of 10. Because we have 10 and 1, that means each power, including their binomial coefficients, will be an integer and hence a multiple of 1000. So we can cancel that. Actually, I don't know what is the factor there, but all we need is the rest 3 factors there, last 3 terms. So the first one is 2011, choose 2 times 10 squared, and then similarly for that, so we have 1 to some power, we just get those omitted because that doesn't change. And hence, 2011 choose 2 means that times 2010 dividing by 2, and 2010 dividing by 2, we have 1005. Then multiply by 100. So for the 100 digit, we only consider the unit digit for those 2 numbers, 2011 and 1005, multiplied together. So this part actually gives me 500. And for the rest thousands, kick them away. And then we have this, we have 1. So together we have 500 here, we have 110 here, and we have 100. Oh, I make a mistake. Bear with me. So it is actually 611. However, that one, it is enough to tell us what is the answer. So this kind of combination, although if we know all those materials, this is not hard. But still, if we are not quite familiar with binomial theorem and this number theory analysis, maybe we haven't seen this technique before, then it will be kind of harder. So I see, and I tried it by myself to multiply out to find what are the last 3 digits, or say what is the pattern for the 100 digit. That takes a lot of time. However, that is not bad. If you can do it with your daily practice, maybe you will see what is the difference, what is the connection in between, then you will have a better understanding to pick out which one is better in terms of the test taking. And for next one, like here is an example. If you can apply this idea, then you will get the answer, which is 81. We will have a lot of such questions and practices in our class just to help you solidify all those techniques you can apply. I just provide a hint here. You can do it after this webinar. All right, take it out. 11 to 2018 divided by 100. Then what is the remainder? All right, so I'll give you 10 seconds. 10. Okay, don't worry. This question is commonly seen, so we'll see that again and again in the future. Well, how to prepare? Well, this is a syllabus. This is a brief structure. Well, some of you may ask me, like, from now, today is Halloween and tomorrow is November the 1st. So from November, December, January, we will have A test, we will have B test, we will have those two parts at the very beginning of next February. So we have complete 3 months out from here. Then what can we do? Well, if you are in our Let's Tackle AMC 8, or if you're in some AMC 8 related courses, you will have, for example, 1 or 2 tests per week. You can keep that trace, because that's what is the most comfortable to you. Perhaps it is your habit. Then just keep going. So do that in terms of AMC 10 as well. All right, so do that and quickly recover what happens, and I'll have a detailed instruction on that. We will share that. How to do the timing, or maybe for some of the questions, it is not quite necessary for us to do the time for every single question. At least for the first few, we want to know what happens, or what are the techniques we want to apply, what kind of knowledge should we take care of, and what are the recoveries. So you don't need to take this screenshot, because we will share some complete document afterwards. All right, don't worry. And also, I put time allocation, accuracy, and concision, which I will explain shortly here. So how to study math? Like, this is my example for competition. Well, I know, and some of you, if you know me, you see I have like even prettier class notes or handwritten notes. Well, why do I put these two? Well, those are the real situation cases. Like, if I want to take a time test or a mock test, what could I write on my draft paper? This is not pretty, but this is real. What we need is for it to be neat and clean. And also it is for check, not only in test check, but also after test check. So we want to know what happens, or if there's something wrong, or the difference in between methods, ideas, workflow. So that's what I say for multiple ideas. And you can sign up to receive our free AMC 10 prep instructions. It will be provided in the comment area, a link, a Google form. So sign it up and you will obtain that from us. So what I mentioned before in details, you will see it. Cool. So you don't need to worry about taking these screenshots, actually. What else? Well, we have so many techniques, like how to determine whether or not we need to balance, or whether or not we need to give up some questions. Like some MCTB students, also we talk about this. How can we assign time? How can we allocate time in from this versus that for MC10, for Amy? Well, a lot of students notice that actually those are quite helpful. And yeah, those students in my class are about to take those next year, so I hope they will get even higher scores than what they did this year. So we will have this AMC 10 short-term class. We will have 4 meetings covering those 4 topics: algebra, geometry, number theory, and combinatorics. So I just copied that pie chart here again. There will be 2 sessions, so one on weekend, one on weekday. So let's still excel AMC 10 at 2021. So still we have around 3 months to go. So what I mentioned before is that you can keep your track on those questions, and beyond that, we'll have this analysis, this group meeting in the middle of December. And afterwards, when you get it done, you can do your own work, get back to your trades on January so that you can see if I want to specifically tackle this part. So if I can see some related topic questions, I can get the score, or maybe I can get a timing so that I know whether or not I should take 15 or 17, 18 questions accordingly. Cool. And also, get ready for your mentor, get ready for your status. We have 3 months so you can get used to the 75-time session, how to take that, how to arrange your time, how to fill in that answer sheet. Remember, we have this answer sheet after you work on all those problems so that they can scan it, they can read it, they can get your score back immediately. Well, I've been spending too much time on this. So thank you for listening and happy Halloween. So what I put here are the contact info. We have contact at the Think Academy. So for our email, there's thethinkacademy.com. And if you like, you can scan that QR code to join our competition group. This is our director. This is our teacher. If you scan it, you can ask him, talk to him, ask for more information about this course, about our competition prep. Also, we have our Facebook channel, Think Academy, or YouTube channel, which you're staying at. Try to subscribe us. Just hit the button, and more webinars are coming for the next several weeks. And also, I'll talk about something about math learning in the future shortly. And I'll call it an end for today. Happy Halloween, trick or treat. Enjoy your evening. Bye-bye.